So today, we are going to start with a little bit of self-reflection. So I want you to think back to when you were 10 years old, and it's a hot summer day. Now you might remember heading to the swimming pool, or to the lake, or to a rock wall that you were going to jump off. For me, when I was 10, I headed to the swimming pool. And I can remember kicking off my flip-flops before I even got in the door. I was so excited to be there with my friends. And I would head over immediately to the diving board. I would do that, I don't know if you remember, between a run and a walk. The one that the lifeguard always had to say, "Slow down," because I was so excited to be there. As I was waiting in line, there were two diving boards you could choose from, a low board and a high board. I chose the high board. All of a sudden, it was my turn. And I grabbed those ends of those railings and I started to climb up. I remember that feeling of that metal in my hands and that metal on the bottom of my feet. It was a little warm. I actually skipped over a few rungs to get to the top. And when I got to the top, I ran off and made this impressive splash. A cannonball. Do you remember those? And when I came to the surface, I looked around and I wanted to make sure that everybody was watching, that my friends saw that incredible cannonball. Well, now I want you to bring your mind to where you are right now. Your story, your circumstance. And it's a hot summer day, and you're heading to the pool. Maybe by yourself, maybe with the kids, maybe with your grandkids. And you see that diving board, and you head over. And you think, you know what, this is great. I used to do this. I have that fearless exhilaration I had when I was 10-year-old. I think I'm going to try it again. And you get in line, and your heart starts racing, and it gets to be your turn. And you start climbing, and at the third rung, you're stopped. In fear, lack of confidence. You're stuck. You have those feelings of self-doubt. You have that voice in your mind telling you, "I'm too old. Are you kidding me? What am I thinking?" You have those feelings of self-doubt or worrying that people may be watching you. Or maybe that procrastination thing. Can any of you relate to that? Where you say, you know what? I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to do it next year. When I'm 10 pounds slimmer, I'll do it then. Why is it that we lose our confidence as we get older? Can any of you relate to what I was just talking about in that story? Of feeling as though you're stuck and you just can't quite take the next step. Well, statistically speaking, you may find it relatable because, believe it or not, 70% of people have felt stuck or are stuck in their lives right now. And only 3 out of 10 people are satisfied where they are in their life. 3 out of 10. Confidence. The definition of confidence is trusting in your abilities, being able to take on challenges day to day and feeling successful. At times, when we get older, our confidence may begin to slide. Our bodies change. I check that box. Our relationships change. I check that box. We face life-altering experiences like loss of loved ones, health issues, retirement. It's very easy for us to start thinking that we can't do the things we used to do. Remember, the definition of confidence is trusting in your abilities. So what can we do now, in these years, in these decades, because we are living longer? What can we do to look at what's possible and not what's impossible? I want you to think of these 3 words and reflect on these. Do not resign. It's not a time to throw in your resignation, but rather it's a time to explore. It's a time to rediscover and a time to reinvent. Well, Amy, how do we do that? How do we do that when we're feeling as though we're losing our confidence? In 3 different ways. The first way is through self-reflection. Secondly, self-reliance. And lastly, self-affirmations. You know, it is a challenging time right now in history. We're living in a pandemic, and fear and uncertainty is part of our everyday life. Sometimes it's as though your days are almost colorless and gray, and there's this fog that just is right there, and you just can't see where to go next. Recently, I have a friend who's in their 50s, and they lost their job. They experienced a downsizing, probably a word that is familiar to some. They knew at this point in their life they needed to reinvent, rediscover, and explore new options. So as they were looking through job descriptions, one came across that looked awesome. It looked amazing. This is perfect. So they started to look at the job qualifications, the requirements. Managing a budget of $1 million such dollars. Leading a team of people of 12. Right then and there, they took themselves out of the game. They didn't check all the boxes. Why do we count ourselves out before we even apply? In our life right now, think of where you are in your journey. The decades of service that you've given, the lessons you've learned, the mistakes you've made, the knowledge that you've acquired. When you think about where you are in your journey right now, it inspires you because you look back at what you accomplished and you think, wow, I did that, remember? So when this friend of mine went back to those job requirements and self-reflected, they said, oh yeah, that's right. In 1997, I managed that budget of $1 million. I checked that box. And remember, in 1999, I was heading up that team of people for that project. Those experiences translate. I want to challenge you to think about your accomplishments. I like to call this developing your highlight reel. We all have them, but we tend to forget. I'm not just thinking about what you did last week, last month, in the last year, but actually taking time to reflect on those experiences, those stories, those mistakes that you've made over the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And use that experience to propel you forward. Your highlight reel. You know, it's a challenge because a lot of times we want that instant gratification. Oh, I did that last week. Perfect, I'll put that on there. It's a little bit like me. I make this comparison often because I have worn glasses or contacts since I was in 7th grade. In every year, I get a new prescription, like many of you. And when I put the glasses on, I'm off kilter. I'm dizzy. I'm out of focus. I want that clarity, and I want it immediately, but it takes time. That's what I want you to do to build confidence, is to take the time to self-reflect and create your highlight reel. Self-reliance. Let's talk about that. Self-reliance is trusting in yourself, in your abilities. Being brave. It takes courage to build confidence. It takes courage to not compare yourself to others. And that's a challenge these days with social media and everything at our fingertips. To not compare yourself to others and not try to keep up with others, but be brave and pull your safety net out if you need to. About 8 years ago, I lived in Germany. And as part of that journey and that experience, every February, there was something called a ski break. I know, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? I still pinch myself when I think of those trips. But every February, and if you're European, you will be able to relate, there was a week holiday where you were able to travel and ski. Each year, we went to a different place. This particular year, we went to Italy. We traveled with other families. There were about 12 of us. And about day 3, I was tired. I have to be honest. I'll put it out there, full disclosure. I was the weakest link. I was the weakest link of the group. I ski. I'm a little bit more of a blue-green, apple strudel, hot chocolate kind of skier. And that morning at breakfast, I heard some rumblings. A lot of the group wanted to go to this particular part of the mountain that was challenging. Lots of black diamonds, lots of challenging courses. I remember overhearing somebody say, well, I really want to do that today, but I'm not sure Amy can do it. And to be honest, I had to rely on myself, on my instincts. I had to realize that, you know what, I know I can't keep up with you today, and that's okay, because you need to go and enjoy that. And I'm going to go do something different. I'm going to rely on myself to be brave, step out of my comfort zone. So I kid you not, I walked over to the reception desk, and each day they had a list, albeit it was in Italian. There was a list of activities that you could participate in. I went over to the reception desk, and there is this beautiful bowl, this beautiful ceramic Italian bowl filled with biscotti. Well, of course, I had to grab one. And I was going to turn around, but this gentleman said, "Buongiorno." I looked on either side of me, and there was no one standing there. It was just me. He said, "Hello, I'm Giuseppe." I kid you not, his name was Giuseppe. You can picture it in your mind. And he said, "You know what? Come join me today. Come join me today on this snowshoe adventure." Why not, right? Everybody else was doing something that they enjoyed and were confident about. Why not? I'll give it a try. And that picture right there in that slide, that is me. That is me standing about, 7 kilometers in to a hike in snowshoes, which I had never done before. Crazy, but so much fun. Rely on yourself, be brave, trust your instincts. The incredible RBG once said, ask yourself, how do I add value to my organization and society? Do I have a purpose that motivates me to be my best self? Sometimes it's hard to self-reflect, right? Sometimes it's hard to really be brave and step outside your comfort zone. I'm going to challenge you for a minute. And I'm going to give a spoiler alert. This is going to be a little awkward. You know, how do we not know our value if we can't recognize it within ourselves? If we don't know ourselves from a value perspective, and how do we gain that value perspective? It's by asking those tough questions, having those courageous conversations. So here's the challenge. I want you to find that friend, that colleague, that anchor, that person in your life that knows you the best on the good days and on the not so good days. And I want you to ask them these questions. Why do I add value to your life? And why in the world, of all the people out there, you chose me as your friend? I told you, awkward, right? I mean, I did this with a friend of mine who I've known for 10, 15 years. And she actually said, Amy, what are you doing? Like, I don't get this. Of course you know why I'm your friend. But you know what? Right there, dig a little deeper. Because we all have blind spots. It's easy for us to not see where we add value to others. You know what? Ask them those tough questions and take the feedback and absorb that feedback. Let's be honest, it is really bad to be stuck, right? It stinks, quite honestly, to be stuck, to lose your confidence, to feel as though you don't have that courage, that fearless exhilaration you used to have. But you know what? There is something great about being stuck. Because you know what? To get unstuck, you realize that there is something bigger out there. About 9 months before I turned 50, I was sitting in my house, and it was quiet. I never have a quiet house. I'm a wife and a mom of 3, but at this point in my life, 2 of mine had flown the nest, and 1 was in high school. I was sitting there, and I was feeling stuck. I didn't know where to go. I was asking myself these questions. Who am I? Where am I? It was almost as if I was standing on a road with a map, and I didn't know where to go. I took that time to become my own historian. History. That word alone has the word story in it. You're the keeper of your stories. Be your own historian. Self-reflect. I created my highlight reel. I used the experiences I had as a journalist early on, working in PR, and my experiences as a wife, a mom, a daughter, a sister. Because remember, those experiences translate. And it was right there I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to rediscover and reinvent and explore new opportunities. I wanted to embrace that feeling of being a novice. So I launched a podcast. Crazy as it sounds, this not so tech-savvy woman said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I had never listened to a podcast in my life. I honestly was more of a book on tape, check it out from the library type of woman. But I did it. And after many trips to the Genius Bar, many YouTube tutorials, and the power of Google, just think what you have right now at your fingertips. How many times do you Google during a day? I was ready to launch my podcast. I was ready. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I sat in my office and I took a deep breath. And I went for it. It was a solo cast, so that's just me talking. And at the end, I so wish you could have been in the office with me, because I was high-fiving myself. I was giving a little happy dance. I was thinking, I just recorded the next Emmy-winning podcast episode. I just know it. Until I went back to check where the file was on my computer. And you know what? I never hit record. No. This woman, this 50-year-old woman that was going to take on the world by starting a podcast and sharing her message, couldn't even remember to push record. Fear. Lacking confidence. At that moment, I was stopped in my tracks. I was stuck. But you know what? It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. Because you know what? You recalibrate, you figure it out. And now, hundreds of interviews later, I've gotten past that fear. On every podcast episode I do, one question I ask my guests is this: if you were sitting on the couch with your younger self, what advice would you give them? I actually got goosebumps when I asked that. I get it every time I ask it because no two answers are ever the same. They're commonalities, but it evokes such emotion. Of course, some of the answers, I'll love myself more, I'll just start, I won't procrastinate, I'll forgive myself. I had one person actually say that they would stand up and walk over to that person and give them a big hug. The incredible and inspiring Joan London said in her interview with me, Amy, you may not believe this, but I didn't know if I had enough confidence. I was always fearful that the rug was going to be pulled from under me. Fear, it's ever present. It takes up bandwidth in our mind every day. But we can't be stopped in fear. Right? We have to trust in our abilities. We have to be brave. And you know what? We have to take that cannonball, that plunge into that water and trust our abilities. Negative self-talk. Anybody out there have this as something they deal with? I just got the flu shot. I'm totally going to get the flu. I get it every year. My company's going through a downsizing. Yep, it's definitely me. I'm going to lose my job. A diet? Seriously? I have tried so many diets. They never work. You can't talk defeat and expect victory. I heard that 2 years ago in a conference I attended. And I love it. It's so powerful. You can't talk defeat and expect victory. Our words inspire our actions. Think of the incredible Muhammad Ali. He said, I am the greatest of all time. He said that before he even knew he was. And he knew he had to believe it or no one else would. We have enough people telling us we're not good enough. We need to shift that mindset with self-affirmations, right? Treat yourself as you would your guest of honor. When you have people to your home, when you welcome them to your house, you welcome them with love and kindness and generosity and respect. Start talking to yourself as you would your child or your best friend. I am healthy. I am strong. I am beautiful. Whatever those self-affirmations are for you, write them down. Put them on a piece of paper. Put them in your nightstand, in your purse, on your mirror, wherever. You can reflect on those in quiet moments. You know what? We have enough people telling us we're not good enough. We need to start telling ourselves how proud we are of where we are in our journey. Mistakes, failures, and all. Confidence. Confidence. Remember trusting your ability. It ebbs, it flows, it waxes, and it wanes. It takes time to develop, and it takes a whole lot of work to maintain. But you know what? Through the power of creating your highlight reel, self-reflecting, the power of relying on yourself and being brave and taking away that safety net, self-reliance, and simply loving yourself, self-affirmations. You are the hero of your story. You are the historian of your life. Do not resign. Explore. rediscover, reinvent. And now I want you to go back for a moment with me to the beginning of my talk. And I want you to picture yourself at that swimming pool on that hot summer day, whether you're there alone with your kids, with your grandkids, with your friends. I want you to walk over to that high dive and get in line. And your heart's going to be racing because you're so excited. And you look up at that ladder and you climb to the very top. And when you get there, you run to the end. You wrap your arms around your legs like you're hugging yourself. Uncomfortable? Heck yeah. Pretty? No, but you gotta start ugly. And make that impressive splash, that cannonball with confidence. And when you come up to the surface, take a deep breath and simply say, "Look at me now." Thank you.